Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in today's video I want to talk about how to pick out what moving head spot type fixture you need so that you get the right light for your needs. As it goes in lighting, we like to say, and I've got three very different fixtures right here in front of me. It's always like the Goldilocks and the three bears when you're choosing a moving head spotlight or any other light, right? You don't want something that's too much for your needs and too expensive, and you don't want something that's too small and too inexpensive for your needs. And so today I want to talk about some of the feature sets to look for across different moving head spots. And then I've got three kind of mid-sized moving head spots here, not massive, not tiny, that just to show you guys some of the differences, some of the things you're going to see in different units and how that can affect you. So to introduce our guest today on the show, first we have over here the Gamma TX5 Spot. It's a zooming 250 watt LED. It's been a really great fixture for us just in terms of we get them to people and they're happy with them. They don't break, they're reliable, and they have a good feature set. Then we have the Megalight Stinger Scan here. Now this is a scanner, this is a moving mirror fixture. And so the difference between moving heads, like the two we've got here, and a moving mirror type fixture is that the head doesn't move, only the mirror. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Then third, we have the Volux Spectra 300. This is, as I said probably in a video that came out just before this, my new favorite CMY spot. It's got a 300 watt LED, it's quite bright, it's got good efficiency, it's got CMY color mixing, a good set of gobos and colors, a really awesome fixture. So all three of these fixtures we like, and we sell on a regular basis here through Learn Stage Lighting Gear. They're kind of go-to fixtures for different applications that work really well depending on exactly what you're doing. So when we talk about a moving head spot, there's going to be a couple things that all of these fixtures have, okay? All of these fixtures have the ability to pan and tilt. Actually, let's select them all, okay? Let's select them all, right? So we'll select them all here real quick. And all of these have the ability to tilt up and down at varying speeds. See that there? All of these fixtures have the ability to pan, to go side to side. We're going to notice, for example, if we jump from one end of the pan range to the other, that there's some definite differences here that are pretty obvious between our scanner, our fixture in the middle, and our two kind of typical spot type units, okay? We're going to see that right away, right? So the first difference you see there is truly in that pan and tilt, right? The scanner, while more limited in its range, only about 180 degrees on the pan, and the tilt is, I forget exactly what it is, it's less, it's like 120 or something, right? It has a lesser range, but it moves almost instantly. Because instead of moving the whole head of the fixture, instead of this whole thing moving, which has some weight to it, it just moves this tiny mirror on a motor. And because of that, it's able to move faster, it's able to move quicker. And even slow moves are still precise and still quite smooth. Okay, so that's going to be your difference between a scanner, a moving mirror type fixture, and a moving head. I don't want that to make it sound bad on scanners, because it's not. It's just a difference to be aware of. If you're using a scanner like above a dance floor and it's shooting down, you're going to have all the range you need. If you're using it behind a band, oftentimes you're going to have all of the range you need from a backlight perspective, because you don't need to go more than 180 degrees side to side, and up and down you don't need that much range either, especially if you hang it like tilted down. You'll be able to get all the way to the stage floor, all the way to the ceiling, everywhere in between. Okay, the disadvantage of the scanner is, like, yeah, you saw when I was moving it, it's only 180 degrees. So these moving heads, they can, in a front or a mid-stage position or beside a stage, Though you could put this sideways on the side of the stage, a scanner. But especially on a front or mid-stage position, okay, these moving heads can hit that wall, they can hit that, they can hit that, they can hit that. They can hit pretty much every direction except directly under their base, right? So there's advantages and disadvantages there. There's cost differences here too, okay? For example, you know, we look at the Stinger Scan 150 watt LED versus this TX5 200 watt LED, or 250, excuse me. And you say, okay, this is 100 more watts, it should be a lot brighter. However, there's another key difference, okay? The TX here, we'll bring it into focus here, has zoom, okay? So it goes from very narrow, and it can focus its gobo, we'll pop it into focus here. So it goes from a very, very narrow, I believe 5 degrees, up to a respectable approximately 30 degrees. I believe it's 28, okay? Both fixtures do have a prism, okay? And so I gotta hop to it here. So there's the TX5's prism. Oh, there's the scanner's prism. It's rotating. And there's the TX5's prism. So that's another thing to be looking at in a moving spotlight is, okay, does it have zoom? Typically, when a fixture has zoom optics, if you compare it neck and neck to a fixture without zoom optics, like this scanner, okay, this in particular also has less features, so a shorter optical length. And between those two things, that means that this Stinger Scan and this TX5 are a really similar brightness, okay? In fact, Gamma actually makes, compared to the TX5, they make a 4. And it has a really similar feature set, it just doesn't zoom. And the TX4 is an 150 watt. It's a little narrower, but ultimately, just like this Stinger Scan, it's about the same brightness as the 250 watt that has zoom. So understand that zoom optics, anytime you have zoom, I love zoom in a fixture. I do. I absolutely do. Zoom is such a great tool, but while it gives you the ability to often have something more beamy or more wide and change the size of that spot, change the size of your gobo on a surface, it does reduce your light output. It's going to make the fixture less efficient, less optimized, as opposed to a fixed angle, no zoom, okay, like this Stinger Scan, where you're able to get more output out of it. Now, when we talk about zoom, we also got to talk about focus. So both these fixtures have the ability, I can go on the console and I can motorize that focus, right? So I can go ahead like I did a minute ago, and I'm on this TX and I'm zooming it, see? And I can make the gobo nice and soft. I can make it nice and sharp. And I have 2 gobo wheels. I can go between those 2 with motorized focus. Lower end, less expensive moving head spots, like the small ones, you're gonna see sometimes they don't have motorized focus. And to me, that's a deal breaker a lot of the time. I really wanna have that motorized focus. The lowest end stuff isn't gonna have it, okay? They're gonna have maybe an adjustable fixed focus on the head itself that you can adjust it and leave it be for the gig, okay? All 3, any moving head spot is gonna have gobos, okay? There are fixed row gobos and rotating gobos are often replaceable, and we actually recently did a video on those as well. You can check that out here, okay? Similar to prisms, which we also recently did a video on. Let's talk about colors, okay? This fixture from Volux, let's go back over to him and drag him over here. Whoop. This fixture from Volux is a CMY fixture, meaning that I can smoothly transition in colors. I'll just pull out my color picker, in fact. And I can hit pretty much any color nice and smoothly, okay? That's because of CMY color mixing. When we're talking about moving head spots, you're typically, very rarely, except on the very small end, gonna see any option to have an RGB color mixing, except for the Elation Fuse series. Excuse me for that mistake. Most of the time, you're gonna have a subtractive, a CMY color mixing, or just a color wheel, okay? Now, in the past, and even still today, CMY color mixing, excuse me, does add a premium to the price, but more modern fixtures like the Gamma TX6 and this Volux Spectra 300 here, both fixtures that we like a lot, do offer CMY mixing without as high of a cost as we've seen in the past. Actually, really kind of quite reasonable. CMY mixing is great because you can transition smoothly from one color to another. So if you're doing a worship service, even just a slow song with a band, if you're doing a corporate event, you don't have to turn the light off to get a smooth transition. That's opposed to a color wheel. Now, all of these fixtures have a color wheel, but I'll just show it to you on the spectrum. And the color wheel is going to be fixed colors. You see that? So the change, you get a little flick because the color wheel switches between colors. Now, pretty much any moving spot is going to have a color wheel. That's a pretty standard thing, and it's not bad, okay? Because with CMY, for example, let's just go ahead. Let's look at this green for a second, okay? See how bright that is on camera? And then let's go to red. See how that looks? Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix that with CMY. So we go to a deep green. Not bad. In person, it's definitely less bright. And then we go to a red. Also less bright. Okay? So the benefit to a color wheel, there's really two, is that the colors can be more tuned. They're a fixed color, and so you can take something like a red that's hard for a lot of moving heads to mix with CMY and do it well. And you can put that on the color wheel and get a really great red. The downside just being the transition into it is not smooth like CMY mixing. Okay? The other thing color wheels can do are split colors. So on this fixture, you go through the color wheel second time, and then you get full continuous color control. Now the cool thing about that, as you can see, is I can get any mix of the red and orange or yellow here that I want, okay? Any mix of it. And the prism's in right now, but if the prism was not in, it would look like this, where you're able to get that color split through the fixture, and when we see it through the air, it looks really cool. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tilt it through the air. I think we can see it on the camera there. If not, we'll switch to the other view. I know my haze is going away a little bit. But you can see when that shoots through the air, you get a really stinking cool, oh, and my intensity's down just to compensate for the camera. So we bring that up, and you can see, okay, that beam through the air with those two colors in it gets really vibrant. Okay. Other than that, those are kind of the main features you're going to see with moving head spots. Okay. When I think about them, when I compare them, I think about zoom, I think about gobos, I think about colors. Does it have a prism? There's going to be other things like frost, which can be helpful to kind of give you a wash-like effect. Just for an example here, we'll take the spectra and we'll point it back at the wall. And then we'll bring in the frost. And frost, especially if you're doing something more theatrical, they can sometimes help you make the gobo look just a little bit nicer. So in this case, we've got a frost. We'll pull it in nice and slow. And it kind of softens it. If you bring it all the way in, you could wash a surface with that, especially once you pop the gobo out. And get some interesting looks. Personally, you know, when I think about lighting shows or corporate events or worship services, whatnot, I just don't use frost that much, so it's not a huge deal to me. But it's something that's in a lot of fixtures. Again, not at the lower end, but most mid to high end. In fact, both the TX5 here and the Spectra 300 have it. I don't think the Stinger Scan has it, but honestly, I just don't see a need for it, okay? And then other than that, that's pretty much it. You're talking about pan tilt speed. You know, there's going to be other things like a higher end fixture like this has an iris to kind of make it more beamy, to kind of zoom down and get just the center of the beam shooting through the air. All of these things are helpful, but I think at the end of the day, what you want to look at when you're choosing a moving head spot is, okay, my biggest things are, do I want color mixing like CMY or like an Elation Fuse series where it's RGB? You know, the ability to color mix versus a color wheel. That's a big thing to decide when you look for a moving head spot, okay? Then I think about movement speed, okay? Do I want a fast moving fixture above all else? Then a scanner, though something that's fallen out of popularity in the past, though recently come back a little bit more, they can be a really great option. Okay, just watch out, don't break the mirrors. Okay, And then, you know, the last thing is zoom, okay? Do you want something that's a little brighter and a little bit less expensive with no zoom? Or do you want the ability to get like a really narrow, like this? Like, let's just look at this Sysma again, this, or no, Spectra 300, sorry. So say we've got this in here, and we're lighting this surface. The difference between the 3.5 degree lighting that surface and the 46 is pretty significant. And through the air, we're going to see a really significant difference as well. So if we switch back over, and I'm just going to pop the color out so it's a little more vibrant here. We'll go to the overhead, pop out the color. And so then we go from very narrow, very beamy. You can also see it in camera 1 here. Okay, let's just tilt it up a little. Boop, 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 boop. So you can really see that go across the room, right? Very narrow, very beamy. You increase that zoom. And now you've got a wide but slightly less punchy beam of light. I'll show you on the front camera, but I got to move it a little bit. You can see that as well right there. Kind of makes my focus go crazy. And so, when it comes down to it, these are really the features and things you want to look at when looking at a spot moving head. Yes, spot moving heads can somewhat cross into the lines of beam if they have a really narrow angle, and sometimes wash as well. But ultimately, when you are looking for a fixture to buy, use this guide, use these fixtures as a guide. When I shot this video, these are some of our favorites. But we're always on the lookout and always working with folks to pair them with the perfect fixture for their need. So, watch our reviews on all these fixtures, check out the links below. But also, if you're thinking about buying new fixtures, you need some new lights, why not get them from a place you trust? What we do at Learn Stage Lighting Gear is exactly that. We'll take the info you give us. You can send us pictures and all that when you request a quote through Learn Stage Lighting Gear, or just fill out our contact form. And we'll ask you for some info. We'll look at your space or the type of events you do, and we'll give you our best recommendation. We'll say, hey, based on what you've told us here, this is our best recommendation. And the beauty of working like this and with a dedicated team of people who just love lighting and breathe it day in and day out is that we're not going with the manufacturer that's going to make us the most money. We're not going with the manufacturer that's spending the marketing dollars on us. We're looking at all of the brands. These are 3 very different brands here in front of me. We're looking at all of the brands out there, and we're going to recommend to you the best fit for your needs. And if that sounds good to you, especially if you're looking for a spot moving head today after watching this video, head over to Learn Stage Lighting Gear. See the difference and let us help you make your next gear purchase. We would love to help. Thank you so much for watching. You'll catch our next video if you're subscribed, and we will see you on the site. Thanks.